Here are 3 hacks that will save you so much time in the kitchen. I'm a lazy cook. I really don't love spending a ton of time in the kitchen. And I know how hard it can be when you're on a healing diet like Paleo or Whole30 or AIP, and all you seem to do is cook. But if you're anything like me, you'd rather spend time with your family or relax on the couch watching TV or reading a book or something like that. Don't worry, I got you covered. In this episode, I want to share 3 things that have really helped me and countless of my audience members save so much time in their kitchen, not having to spend all of their time cooking. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first one is dump and go freezer meals. I've shared this many times on this channel and on my blog, but essentially all it is taking raw ingredients and throwing them into a bag or freezer safe container and then freezing it for later. You don't have to cook the ingredients before putting them into the freezer, which is the time-saving method in this part. So you can get so many meals done at once and have like 7 or so meals in your freezer for some later time. And then the beauty with these also is that when it comes time to actually cook them, all you have to do is take them out of your freezer and thaw them in the fridge overnight, and then throw them into a slow cooker, an Instant Pot, a pot on the stove, or into a container for the oven. And it's like literally just dump the ingredients into these things and cook. So they're like as close to meals that kind of cook themselves as possible. And that's one reason why I love them so much. I have several of these kind of meals on my blog at Thriving on Paleo. You can go ahead and go to the recipe section on there, and there's actually a little checkbox that says dump and go freezer meals. Just check that and you'll see all of the different recipes that apply for this. Hack number 2 is make one, freeze one. Now, there's a couple of different ways of doing this, but I shared one of these recently with the Italian sheet pan meal, where I doubled the recipe, and when I was cutting up the chicken, I put half onto a sheet pan for dinner that night, and I put half into a bag for later. Same thing with the asparagus and the spices and everything like that. It was a little bit more work to do, but not a lot. I only had to shop once, had to take all the ingredients out once, and clean up once. So in the end, it really does save you a lot of time. Plus, you already have then a bag that you can put in the freezer, and when you need it, just take it out and cook it. It just kind of makes it a lot easier mentally as well, knowing that you have a meal ready to go. I also show this technique with the Thai chicken soup, as well as the sweet and sour meatloaf. So if you want to check those videos out, I'll put that up in one of these places. And then the other way to do this make one, freeze one kind of method, it can be to actually cook a double, triple, or quadruple batch of something and then freeze the leftovers for later. This is a really great thing for like soups, stews, pancakes, muffins, waffles, any of these kind of things that really freeze well, really work well for this method. So then instead of putting the ingredients into bags as you're prepping them before cooking, you would actually cook the meals and then put them into freezer bags or containers for later. And depending on what kind of recipe you're making, it'll be a little bit more work to a lot more work, but it's still worth it in the end because you're still only doing the shopping, taking out, and cleaning up once. I love doing this though with like soups and stews. I have 2 slow cookers, but it's really helpful because then I can just put like quadruple the recipe and then just divide it between the 2 slow cookers, and then we eat some one night, then we have the leftovers for lunch the next day, and everything else we freeze for like a dinner or 2 or leftovers later. So with this method, once the cooking is done, you want to freeze them in either individual size containers if you're only eating by yourself, or in like a family size amount that you want in some sort of freezer safe container. Hack number 3 is freezer stash cooking. Now, while the make one, freeze one can definitely apply for this, this goes a little bit further in several different ways. One being that if you have a little bit of leftovers from a meal that you have that maybe you won't make a whole entire meal for yourself or your family, freeze it, put it in your freezer stash, because then you can add it to a meal later to give some variety and make it a little bit more fun. An example of this would be like, say you made pancakes and there was only 1 pancake left over. Freeze it. That could be a meal for you later. But also you could intentionally cook meals or items to put in your freezer stash. So this could look like a session where you make 3 different sauces and then freeze them for later. Or a session where you make pancakes and freeze them for later. Or you could do a whole bunch of things at once, saving yourself a lot of time. For example, say you put a pork shoulder into the slow cooker, a beef roast into the Instant Pot, and then into the oven you put a whole tray of chicken breasts, some whole sweet potatoes, and some acorn squash. And then while those are cooking, you could cook up 3 different sauces. Then once the sauces were done, you could let them cool for a little while and then put them into ice cube trays to freeze, or put them in individual size portions into like plastic bags and then put them in your freezer. Then you have all these sauces for later. And then once the sweet potatoes and squash were done, you could let that cool for a little bit as well, peel it, mash it, and then freeze those into super cubes or muffin tins or in freezer safe bags into like meal size portions, and you'll have those as a side for later. And then once the proteins are done, you could shred them and then put them into meal size portions into bags or containers and freeze them for later. So then some other time when you want, say, shredded chicken with a barbecue sauce over mashed sweet potatoes, it's in your freezer. All you have to do is take those things out, reheat them, and you have an instant meal. The sky is really the limit here, and you have so many different options when you do this, especially as you just keep doing this over time. You'll start rotating things in and out, and you'll have so much variety eventually. I teach these sort of tactics, specific recipes, and step-by-step meal plans at my Autoimmune Collective program. So if you think that this is the kind of thing that would save you so much time and you get a lot of value from, make sure you sign up for the waitlist, because I'll be opening up the doors to the Autoimmune Collective soon. You can go to autoimmunecollective.com and get on the waitlist, and you'll be notified as soon as the doors open. I really hope these tips help you though, because eating healthy shouldn't have to be a trade-off of your time or doing the things that you really enjoy. You should be able to do all of it. Just simple shifts can really add up to a lot of time savings. Now, if you want to see the make one, freeze one in action, here's the video where I show you how to make the Italian sheet pan meal. It's really delicious, and I hope you enjoy it.